Welcome to Move Your Mind. My name's Nick Bracks, and this is a podcast where we have real conversations with real people and give real advice. We all go through burnout at times and we question our reality, our career choices, what we're doing, and we can get into a rut, but how many of us actually do something about it? I was lucky enough to speak to Katches, and he went through that exact same thing, but he decided to take action, to change where he lived, to move to New York, and to turn his anxiety into helping people from all over the world. He makes TikToks and social media videos that shine light on mental health. And as a videographer, he's been able to use his skills in a really creative way to help people all over the world. He makes cinematic, self-explorative videos to promote a dialogue for mental health and human behavior. He's the owner and operator of Space Milk, where they direct, DP, write, edit, and produce video and photo content primarily for brands and performing artists, providing a range of video types, including behind-the-scenes content, social media videos, music videos, short films, and more. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. We had so much in common. He's a really unique person. He's making a huge difference. He's carving out his own niche. Highly recommend you listen to the end. We had a few issues with it cutting out, but we're able to fix that in the edit. So I hope you enjoy, and thanks again for supporting Move Your Mind. Just a reminder that the Move Your Mind book is now available globally. You can find all of the links at nickbracks.com/book, and you can join the Move Your Mind community by going to moveyourmind.me and get access to behind-the-scenes footage, over 50 hours of learning courses, community features, private groups, and much, much more. Highly recommend you join. And finally, for the 10-year anniversary, we've relaunched Bracks and are donating $1 from every pair sold to 1 in 5, a mental health charity, and you can find that at underbracks.com. Jesse, thank you so much, mate, for coming on Move Your Mind, all the way from New York. So if I was in New York, we could be sitting, sweating away, having the conversation, but it's early morning in Australia. More importantly than that, we were talking before, I feel super privileged to have you doing your first ever podcast interview on here. So, thank you, mate.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I feel privileged myself.
No, it's great to have you. And, I guess it's so, this is the best thing about Instagram and the internet and everything. I've seen your, what you do on TikTok and social media and the skits you create, and sort of connected with you through there. And that's what I love about, I guess, there's so many bad parts about social media, but I love the fact that you can sort of, have people pop up on your feed, and, a week later you can be having a conversation and, hopefully catching up in person in New York as well when I'm back there. So
right.
It's funny how the world works.
Yeah, it really is. I feel like more and more of my friends nowadays are coming from social media and just random people that I connect with or that reach out to me. And it's great because in the modern day world, so many people are kind of isolating and staying apart away from each other. And social media is kind of bringing us all together. It's nice.
Exactly. It really is. I guess especially with the pandemic and, where the world's been, people have become so much more isolated. So many more people work from home now. So it is an important thing. And I think it sort of allows you to be able to connect with, like-minded people as well, because you often don't have, that ability to meet those people in day-to-day life and in the communities that we're in. So it is pretty cool. It's a good way. And as we'll discuss, with what you're doing, getting a positive message out there and being able to use it as a tool to influence other people and educate them in a range of different ways, like what you're doing.
Yeah. There's definitely, I appreciate that. There's definitely both sides to social media, and I find myself kind of viewing either side of the line, where I'm just spending way too much time consuming content that really doesn't edify me, doesn't bring me any benefit. It's just kind of going down that entertainment path, or making me feel bad about myself because I'm looking at things I don't have. But then there are a lot of people that are doing a lot of good on there, and I'm thrilled that you think I'm one of them. So I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely, mate. Love what you're doing. But it's such an interesting thing, what you're saying there. And I find that so difficult, where I need to use social media for so much of the work that I'm doing, but I then find myself just going on tangents, looking through different people's profiles, scrolling, and it's become almost, a bit of an addiction for me, and I'm aware of it at least, and I'm trying my best. But it's so hard because you're using it all the time. Then you look at what other people are doing, and I also find, for me working in the mental health space, I was doing a talk yesterday at a company actually, and I'm just honest when I go in there. I'm like, I'm working in mental health, but guys, I think I need to sit in on this bloody thing because I'm exhausted. I'm like, my mental health is declining from trying to help people in mental health, and hopefully it's still helping, but I think I need to, reevaluate what I'm doing because it's, I'm overwhelmed.
Right. Yeah, I totally
so
get
it's
it.
a crazy thing.
Yeah. Before we hopped on, we were kind of talking a bit about even the cadence of posting and like writing skits, keeping up with posting content, and just that balance between kind of keeping your own sanity and posting enough that the algorithms are getting your content out there, that people are seeing your content at a frequent pace enough to recognize your face and keep up, and you're growing. You post enough to actually grow, and it's such a fine line, I feel like, to like post enough and be on social media enough, responding to people and kind of talking to people about what they're dealing with, and then also kind of taking that minute to give yourself the self-care to allow yourself the break and to take a step back from social media. And it's something I struggle with a lot. I've been on more on social media this year, just trying to kind of build and post more and more skits than I ever have before. And sometimes I just want to take my phone and throw it outside and never look at it again because my eyes hurt and my brain is tired. And then other times I'm just like, wow, the love on here, the support, the community, it's overwhelming. And like, I want to dive more into it. I want to spend more time with these people and talk to more of the viewers and followers that have supported me and that have come to find my content. So it's definitely a balancing act for sure.
100%. And it really does become almost a full-time job if you're a content creator and you're doing, stuff like that on social media. It really is. There's so much that goes into it, and probably a lot more than, what people would think. Even doing this podcast, like I initially, before I did it, I thought, oh no, it can't be too hard, releasing an interview a week, can't be that much time. But then the mechanics that go into the whole thing, it's not simple. It's so many things. And but it is a cool thing, that we, I guess, live in a time where we have this ability now to, we couldn't have done this even 10 years ago, really, on this level, especially 20 years ago. But now, living in this day and age where we don't have to have permission from other people to go and put our work out into the world. You can sort of take it into your own hands, be your own content creator, get your own message out there, and just do it. And so I think it's a really amazing thing, but I think it just takes so much self-discipline and self-management to make sure that you're sort of able to do it sustainably, because it can be isolating, and it takes a lot of motivation and, daily work to do it.
Yeah, it definitely does. I agree with everything you just said. And I wake up and like, I've been trying to practice more and more gratitude. And one of the things I keep coming back to about what I'm grateful for is the idea that we have everything that we have at our fingertips. Like, I can post a video and reach thousands of people just with the time that goes into it is a lot more than this, but I can post it in a second and then it reaches so many people. And it's like, you have the ability to connect, to impact, to inspire, whatever it is, so many people right from the comfort of your home. And I'm so grateful for that, because like, I've tried working in office jobs. I've tried working for other people, and it's just not for me. And the ability to like find something you love and be able to do it all from your home and have all the access of everything we have at our fingertips is amazing to me. And it really is. It's like we're all creating our own TV shows or movies or whatever it is. Like, you don't need to go to a network. You can, post things that you're interested in, and chances are somebody else is going to be interested in that same thing and connect with that. And if you do it consistent enough, I think that's when magic things start to happen, is like you keep staying consistent with it, and then you find that community that connects with it as well. So I'm really grateful for the access 100%.
I think, no, I couldn't agree more, with what you're saying. And I think it sounds to me, like you're very much a creative person, and, similar to me, it's sort of, I think the most I lasted in an office job was 2.5 days. I just couldn't do it, couldn't need the freedom and autonomy to be able to create. But it is a refreshing thing being able to do it yourself. And I guess for me, coming from an acting background, I just found it so anxiety inducing, and for my own mental health, and I know for other people in that industry, just so incredibly difficult, because you have no control over it and you're just waiting for permission all the time, where it is just so refreshing, where you can, just now you can just be like, well, I'm going to take matters into my own hands and just create my own stuff and find a way to do it. And there's lots of different ways to be creative in doing that. You don't have to follow that set path of, those traditional sort of ways that it happens. It's a different world now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah.
It's funny. I don't know if your audience will have seen my skits before this or whatnot, but it's funny because I've had a lot of people comment on my videos and they're like, there's no way this guy has anxiety. Like, he wouldn't be acting like this. He wouldn't be making these skits if he had anxiety. And it's funny because, like, you saying that you act in front of a crew, like, not before you got into this whole profession, you were an actor and you were on sets and you had a crew with you, and that the idea of that, like, I can act in a skit that I film myself, but the idea of acting in front of other people on a set terrifies me. I would probably choke up. I would probably have to run and hide in my dressing room or wherever it is, because the anxiety provoking thoughts of that just terrifies me right now, just thinking about it. So it's interesting to hear your perspective and I guess kind of the difference for you between like being on a set and that whole lifestyle of that anxious situation, and now coming to do what you do, because you're making skits now too on your TikTok or on your Instagram, and you're acting in them. So it's like, I'm curious to hear your perspective on acting in front of a set and a crew versus doing it all from home and kind of being your own director, your own producer, and all that. How's that for you, the difference?
Yeah, for sure, mate. And we will, for everyone listening, I'm going to, in a second, ask you for a bit of just to give us a bit of a background on yourself, and we'll definitely I want to go into talking about the skits you're doing and all that sort of thing, because it's super interesting. But for me, I guess, yeah, I found it sort of really refreshing and fun to do. I mean, I'm in the process of trying to produce my own show at the moment, that who knows what direction that will go in. But I found it just, when I got really inspired, actually, and you were one of those people. I was looking at a range. I mean, there's quite a few of them. But I found there's a guy, Connor, you would know him, Connor DeWolf,
I think.
Yes, Connor DeWolf.
Yeah, yep. Yeah.
So he does
great.
Stuff on.
He's an inspiration to me, for sure.
They're so well done. I was looking through his, and I was like, wow, this guy's, and he's young. He's like 20 or something, or 21.
Yeah.
And, super talented, intelligent guy. And same with yours. I was looking through, I was like, these are cool. And the production quality on these is freaking good. And such a good message, well performed. I was like, this is so cool. And it just got me really excited, because I was looking through it. And I thought, well, why am I not doing this stuff myself? And I think I've always had in my own mind a roadblock of always jumping to the sort of the big picture thing, and I'd be looking in the acting, for example, of thinking, oh, why, go and make my own sort of small things and, put my own content out there. Why not just, I should be waiting to just try and get this big job and it take off that way. But I think it wasn't making me happy, and it did cause a lot of anxiety. I mean, the being on set part, I guess, once I got used to that, I kind of like the thrill of it. But what caused me the most anxiety was just the lack of control and, feeling like you're really just a piece of meat, really just being, you're not getting, you're going for 100 auditions, you're not hearing anything back, and every actor go through it. It's just so difficult. So I got so excited because I was like, this is so cool. And, I can now go, and if I start doing this, not only create my own content and, do some little acting things, but also do it to get the same message that I'm getting out there in mental health and have been doing with my company. So for me, it's like doing something which, I don't know, it feels like it might be a similar thing for you, where being able to get this message out there through doing something I love doing and creating, it's almost just combines everything into one nice, neat little package where you can just, that's what I found.
Yeah, totally. I absolutely agree. It's amazing when those intersections of life kind of come together and you're like, why haven't I been doing this the entire time? Like what's been holding me back? And typically it's yourself, I would say. I know for me, it always is. So it's really cool. I think it's great what you're doing. And I think it's really cool. Again, going back to the positive uses of social media and kind of how it all works together there. So yeah, I agree.
100%. It's so interesting how the mind works, how it does that, because it sort of it talks you out of doing things that you might know would be good for you or that you sort of want to do, and it will come up with reasons why you shouldn't do it based on trying to, pretending that it's going to help you get to where you want to go. But the reality is you just got to be doing things, and it's all these fears and not wanting to probably confront just, doing the work and doing the small steps at a time and facing reality. So it's a constant navigation.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of similar to like when an anxiety trigger appears in your life, it's like, if I think back to like elementary school, I don't think I was afraid to give like speeches in front of classes, really. I mean, I knew everybody. I was in kindergarten with all my classmates, and then we grew up together. And so you get comfortable, you get to know people. And then around high school, I really started having social anxiety really started to hit me. I really started to have a fear of public speaking and whatnot. And it's interesting because it's like, once you have like one bad moment, then it's like a landmark trigger. And every time you go back to that feeling, like everything in your body excites again, and you start to get panicky and have anxiety attacks or panic attacks. And then you don't want that feeling. So you try to avoid it more and more. And it's just interesting. Again, it's like you can either run from putting in the work and like steer clear of that panic trigger and never go near it again. Or like you were saying, put in a little bit of work, like give a speech here, hop on a podcast here, and things like that, that actually work towards it. And it's funny because the things that hurt the most usually are the most growth inducing. So I think it's exactly right. What you're saying is like putting in the work is it's challenging and it's scary, but it's very similar to anxiety in a lot of ways, and overcoming anxiety in that way.
100%. I resonate so much with what you're saying there. And I think we're talking before we got on as well about, how the fear of the actual doing of something is often more terrifying than the actual act itself. And
right.
And for me, I don't know if this is similar for you, but I've always, my biggest issue when it comes to my mental health has been anxiety. And since I was so young, I've just had an incredibly active mind, and I can't stop thinking about everything, good, bad, and indifferent. My mind's just going a million miles an hour, and it will come up with these crazy scenarios and about how, dramatic all these different things are going to be. And even hearing you then talk about the public speaking part, that was for me, and I've talked about this quite a lot on my podcast, the work I do, but that was really the turning point for me with sort of starting to really back myself and go on this journey, because I was so terrified. I was sort of had such fear of it that I couldn't, when I was sort of in my early 20s, I couldn't look people in the eye and have a conversation. And I was in a university course, and my biggest fear in the whole world was public speaking. And we had to do about 15 talks in front of like 5 people in every talk. So it was a small group, but I was so terrified that I was trying to pull out of the course, and I would literally be vomiting before I'd do the talks, and I'd stand there with it written on a sheet of paper, and I'd be like looking at the floor, mumbling, just terrified. But by doing that, I like actually got comfortable doing it, and it sort of it's something I think about with everything I do now, where I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to listen to what my mind's telling me. It's almost like immersion therapy, if you go and just do something. I found that for me is the best way to tackle anxiety, which is not pleasant, because like you were saying, it's often our gut knows, the things that are confronting or that are difficult are probably what's going to be best for us. And doing it helps so much, but it's just getting yourself out of your head and to just go and do it.
Yeah, totally. That's so funny. And I'm laughing as you say that, because I relate 100%. It's so crazy. I remember taking multiple classes where I almost dropped out because I didn't want to have to do the presentations. I would go there on day one. They'd go through the syllabus and be like, okay, we got to do this group presentation, this one. And I was looking immediately for another class that I could get the same credits, because I was like, I don't want to do it. I've gotten docked letter grades for like not reading. Yeah, like I've taken like English classes where we were supposed to read our essay, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. And they're like, are you sure you're gonna get down, like docked a whole grade? And I'm like, yeah, I'll take the C instead of the B. It's fine. So like I totally get it. And it's funny. It's funny because I've been thinking about this more, how like realistically anxiety is like our body's attempt at a solution. And it's like it's not the harm, it's like the attempt at a solution. And it's so funny how like our bodies and minds seem to be working against each other. And like the response to like sweat or your heartbeat, it's like, it feels like it's attacking you, but really it's like, this is what we need to do to feel safe. And I've been thinking about that more and more. And it's just kind of, our bodies are so wild, and I'm so interested in them. And that kind of, a lot of that like drives my passion to like research new topics and come up with new video ideas, because I'm like ever fascinated with the mind and the body and how it works, and I'm like on a pursuit to learn more and more, but I'm definitely not an expert in the field, that's for sure.
Well, we need more people like you, and it's similar to what I've been doing in this area, where I'm not an expert, and I don't actually want to be. I'm very vocal about the fact that I'm trying to be an advocate and get messages out there, rather than go and become a psychologist, or because I think there's so many fantastic professionals as well, which we need, but we also need people that can distill these messages and make them relatable and get that out to mass amounts of people. That makes a huge difference. But what you're saying there, I think it's like this bizarre thing where anxiety and all these fears, it's sort of, I guess, like our brain is biologically built to look for threats, and it used to, I guess, in caveman times, we would have been killed if we if we didn't look for the negatives. But now the mind is still doing that, so if we don't catch ourselves doing it, we can go on these tangents, and it's just crazy. And like I'm good at certain things, but then I'll get caught up, even like say packing a suitcase, where I think sort of like what you're talking about there, where things that we need to do that are actually going to be good for us to make our life better. I will get extreme anxiety about just packing a suitcase to the point where I'm feeling sick. I'll put it off. Then I start packing it. I'm in a cold sweat. I'm thinking, okay, but what if I bring too much? Okay, now I've got too much. What if, and then I take it out. What if I don't bring enough? What if I need this pair of shoes? What if I need this jacket? It's just crazy. It's like, what the hell is my mind doing? And then you're getting a physical reaction from it. It's just, what the hell?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really funny how like it's just it's a chain reaction, but it's like cyclical, where it's like our body informs our mind and then our mind informs our body. And it's just like they keep raising the stakes, and you just keep like sweating more, or panicking more, whatever it is. And it's so funny because like you were saying it's back in, the prehistoric days, caveman days, like, yeah, it was a big help for us. And we are probably here today because we have these sensations and these reactions. But now we're packing suitcases, sweating and like panicking. And it's so insane. It's so crazy. But it's like that, I don't know. It's just funny that like it causes so much harm on us today, for the smallest things. And nobody wants to like talk about it because like if I don't tell anyone about my anxiety and then I start getting anxiety packing a suitcase, I don't want to tell anyone that. Like, it's like I don't want to bring that up and be like, listen, man, I have anxiety. I'm overthinking packing my bag. Like, and I get it. And that's why we can talk about it and laugh. But like it's scary to talk about if you don't have anyone to talk about it, or you're just not familiar with like what's happening and what's going on. So I get it. And I guess that's what we're both trying to do though, is be advocates and get more people to talk about it. So that's the good thing here.
That's a good thing here. Exactly. And for anyone listening that does have trouble packing a suitcase, a little trick I found, this isn't a healthy trick, by the way. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but I started basically waiting till the morning of the flight. So I'd have like a 30 to 45 minute window to pack. So at that point, even if you want to overthink it, you can't. You're like, I'm going to miss my flight if I don't just put stuff in here. So that's what I did for a while. But I wouldn't recommend. I'd recommend trying to work on finding better ways to cope with your anxiety.
Yeah, there might be a better solution to that.
There's probably a better solution. So that's just the backup emergency solution. So anyway, I kept wanting to go back to just for our listeners, can you give a bit of just a background on yourself, the work you do, and especially, sort of what you're doing currently, and how you led to that with TikTok and creating these educational videos, and, what they are and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. For some reason, I always start to get anxiety when I'm talking about myself. That's the thing that,
right.
Presses down on me. But, yeah, so it's funny. I grew up making videos. Like, I have one video in particular when I was probably 8, 9, 10 years old. And me and my brothers, my family, we used to my dad brought home a VHS tape my dad brought home a camcorder, like a VHS recorder. I guess it's a camcorder nowadays. So my dad brought home a camcorder, and he was a UPS driver, and he would deliver to a video rental store. And then when he delivered to the video rental store, he became friends with this guy whose name was Guy, funny enough. And and Guy would give my dad just boxes of extra movies that he had, and he had just duplicates of or whatever. And so my dad brought home a camcorder and these boxes of movies, and then me, my brothers, and my friends would just go outside and recreate. We would watch the movies and then go outside and recreate them. And some were really bad, and we really leaned into that, and we just tried to be like over the top comedic and like really go wild with them. Some were good, and we tried to remake them like The Matrix, and we just, crashed and burned on our attempts. But all in all, it was really funny because I grew up making short movies and whatnot. And I found one from about when I was 8 or 9. And it's just me. Nobody wanted to make a video with me on that day. And it was just me like doing essentially a skit like I do now. And it was just like this dramatic scene of 2 guys fighting, and then like it was probably 7 seconds long, 10 seconds long. And I found it and I was like, wow, my first TikTok was like when I was 8, 9 years old. That's so cool.
That's insane. It's like this full circle thing with, full
circle with the videos. Yeah. But I got away from it for a long time. So I went to college. I ended up going to college for kinesiology. For those who don't know, the science of the human body, art and science of human movement. And so for a while I wanted to be a physical therapist, and I've always kind of taken care of my body and watched that end of things. And so I thought maybe like that would be a path for me. But as I went down that path, I became a personal trainer, and I just realized quickly that this whole life is just way too scientific for me. I need to get back to that creativity and storytelling, really. And so then I quit that job, and I was trying to find really any job at the time. I was trying to find something more creative, but I came across a website development company, and my stint was longer than 2 days at a corporate office, like you said, but much longer.
Excellent.
Actually. Yeah. It was embarrassingly longer because I kind of went down a bad path in terms of my mental health while I was there. And so I found a job at a website development company, and the commute was really long for me, and I was sitting at an office. So, I was just sitting probably, if anyone's familiar, I was living in Santa Monica and working in Orange County, and the commute round trip every day was like 4 hours at least. And then I would sit and look at spreadsheets for, 8 to 10 hours during the day. So then all in all, I was just like sitting for like 14, 15 hours and just not doing anything creative. And I really started to lose my mind. And that during that time, I started to get terrible anxiety, like debilitating, strange symptoms. I would have like burning sensations on my back just randomly. I would have like muscle twitches and spasms. I would get dizzy spells just randomly sitting there. And the bad thing about it was I was Googling my symptoms after every new one came up. And then that would just perpetuate the sensations. And I would go down these bad little rabbit holes while I was at work. And so there was oftentimes I was having panic attacks nearly daily at work, and I would just go sit in the bathroom until kind of the symptoms subsided. And so it was a really bad path for me. And then during that time, I thought I was kind of going crazy because I went to see like doctor after doctor, and they're like, nothing's wrong with you. It's literally just anxiety. And I'm like, no, you don't get it. Like, anxiety will not do this to me. This is something else. This is much worse. I was convinced I had multiple sclerosis or other diseases and disorders that were terrifying me. And they just kept saying it was anxiety. And I started to feel like I was either dying and no one cared, or I was going crazy. And eventually I came across a book, actually, this book called Dare by Barry McDonough. I'm not sure if you've read it, but as I was reading it, I realized he was talking about a lot of the symptoms I was experiencing. And that was the first time I ever heard anyone talk about it. And like that, I was like, I'm not alone in this. Immediately, I started crying. I was sitting in my apartment and I just started crying because I felt like I was like the only one experiencing this, and that I was like on the verge of death and couldn't talk to anyone about it. And then immediately I was like, there's other people like me in the world. And so that was kind of a landmark moment for me, because from there, it didn't get better right away. I ended up seeing another doctor, and he like worked with me. And eventually I found out my work was causing all these anxiety symptoms, because I was like so kind of in a mentally unhealthy situation and really feeling stuck and like I wasn't growing, wasn't progressing. And that was perpetuating a lot of the symptoms I was experiencing. But that reading that book was a landmark moment for me, because at that point I was like, I need to quit my job. I need to find something else and like shake up life. I need to do something, because if I stay here, I'm gonna probably actually die from my anxiety symptoms. I don't know what it's gonna do. So I ended up quitting my job, moving to New York. I was scared about it because I lost my health insurance, but I was like, I think it's a calculated risk, but like, let's do it. So me and my girlfriend quit our jobs, moved to New York with no jobs. And I was like, you know what I used to do that I really love, but I haven't done in a while, was make videos. So I started, I bought a camera again. I started working on production sets as like a production assistant. Started trying to learn as much as I could, shoot as many videos as I could. And then fast forward 5 years, I've been in New York 5 years now. And I'm making videos. I got back to making skits, and it led me to start making TikToks and YouTubes. And as I started to make TikTok videos, I was like, what's something I experience all the time? And I went back to my anxiety, my mental health. And that was something I always wanted to come back to, because when I was in the height of my anxious symptoms and my mental health issues, I felt like I said, I felt like I was alone and that no one in the world could relate. I had no one to talk to. And so then when I started making TikTok videos about things that I went through, things that I experienced, I was like, if I could be the voice or like the bridge to tell people who were in that same position I was, who feel like they have no one, to get them to point B where they feel like there's this whole community, this whole world who is experiencing the same thing as me, then I want to do that. And that's a great opportunity for that, because I've been through it and I can help those people. So I started making TikTok videos about it, and immediately people took to it, they connected, and I'm blown away at the amount of support, the amount of love, and the community that's building around it. I didn't think it would progress this quickly and grow this quickly. But I'm thrilled that I'm able to help people who feel like they're alone and don't have a voice and feel like they need the support that I didn't feel like I had back in the day, for sure. So that's why I'm here.
Well, mate, thank you for sharing the story. And what a story. That's such an interesting story, and so many things that, to learn from that. And yeah, it's pretty powerful. It's pretty cool to hear. And as you're saying there as well, I guess it's like so interesting to hear your perspective on that. And I guess what most people experience when you're going through that, thinking, what's wrong with me? How do I get out of this? What's and the alternative for me? Why am I unique in what I'm going through, when the reality is there's millions of people all around the world going through similar versions of it themselves that also feel isolated in it. And it's why what you're doing with the TikTok videos is so powerful, because it's getting this message out there and helping. I guess it shows people are screaming for, to find this kind of information, to connect, to have that community. So it's a powerful thing. So no, it's super cool. A really interesting story.
Yeah, thank you. It's funny because, like, looking back on it now, from where I am today, I'm happy I went through all that. There was some really, really bad times. I didn't want to give my entire life story, but I skipped over quite a bit. But there were some really dark and bad times. And I think, and in the time that I was experiencing them, of course you want out of the tough positions, you want out of the tough spots. You don't want the bad things in life, bad quote unquote, to happen. But then looking back on them, I'm like, there's no way I would be here equipped to do what I do without them. Like if I wasn't like sitting alone in my bathroom crying night after night because of my anxiety and intrusive thoughts, like I wouldn't know how to talk about it in a video. I wouldn't know how to connect with other people. And then maybe they would be feeling the same way with no release either. And so it's interesting. There's been high highs and low lows on the journey. But I can say I'm grateful for all of it. And it's interesting because going back to like being an expert versus not being an expert and being an advocate, when I started making them, I'm like, I don't know if I should be making these, because I don't want people to like take me for a doctor, or take me for a therapist or a psychiatrist or a healthcare professional in general. And it kind of, right when I started making them and I started seeing success, I kind of like backed off a little bit, and I almost stopped, just because I'm like, I'm not any of those things. I'm not a professional. I'm not an expert. And I don't want to lead people down the wrong path and kind of like misrepresent myself or come off as like a poser in any way. But then as I started to see the response and like the need for that, like I'm sure you see it as well, just like the need for information, the need for connection, I think most of all. And sometimes like you just need to hear it's going to be okay. Like, listen, I know what you're feeling. It's going to be okay. And like, sometimes that's all you need. And that's all I needed. Like a doctor told me that when I told you I was quitting my job at that time, it was really bad. And the last doctor was like, whatever you have, it's going to be okay. And I'm like, immediately, just this warm hug of emotions came over me. And I'm like, this person cares. Like, and sometimes that's all you need.
My name's Nick Bracks and I'm a storyteller who has dedicated my entire adult life to creating positive conversations around mental health. In recent years, discussions around mental health have become less taboo and entered the mainstream vernacular. I've delivered over 1,000 mental health seminars around the globe, including several TED Talks, and I believe we all have a story to tell. In my book, Move Your Mind, I cover my story and stories from people that inspire me, as well as insights from world-leading mental health experts. This book will help you to learn how to recognise mental health issues before they become a problem. Use your personal challenges as motivators, take ownership of your well-being, and create new daily habits that increase happiness and reduce stress.
Oh, no, so many things in there that are so important, what you're saying. And I think it's so true. And there's a place for every in mental health, it's so complicated and there's no one-stop solution. There's levels of it. So there's a huge need for, what you're doing and sort of what I'm doing, using communication and storytelling to get a message out there. There's a huge need for professionals. There's a huge need for, preventative tools and solutions and everything else. And they all connect, and there's no one that's better or worse, or they're all different things that we need to do. So I think it's really important to, to remember that and get that message out there. And I really resonate with what you were saying as well, when it sort of comes back for me whenever I've done things that aren't in line with, I guess, trying to, storytell, really trying to use storytelling and do things like that. I've felt like, okay, using communication to get messages out there is just, it's almost like what my calling is. And, so similar to what you're sort of talking about. And I just really resonated with what you were saying. I was having literally a conversation 3 days ago with a friend about this I've been through so many painful things, so many ups and downs, so many things pathways that didn't work, that I wasn't happy with, and, so much emotional pain. And would I make the same mistakes again, or do the same things again, or choose to go through that again? No. But, do I regret it? Absolutely not. And I would never change anything, because every single thing that's happened has, like what you were saying, I wouldn't be on the path that I'm on now and have the knowledge to be on that path and have you wouldn't have the empathy that you have. I think that's also another gift that comes from going through difficult experiences. That allows us to understand ourselves more and have more empathy for other people. And then it makes you, that's why I wanted to help in mental health and go and speak about it, because you go through it yourself. And then when I started talking in companies, you'd see people that had never spoken about it before come and talk about it and go and get help. And you're like, well, these people are screaming to hear this. It's so important. But I think we live in a day and age now where a lot of the time we don't, we're sort of taught to go for the quick fix, the easy solution, to avoid discomfort, to, just look for the simple things, which is not how we grow in life and not how we get to the core of, what we really, what our meaning and purpose is and what's going to make us happy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think kind of coming full circle to social media, it's funny because like a lot of times I think people use social media as an escape. They go on there to not do the hard things, like to get away from the things they need to do. So we go to, and I'm going to say we, because I do this too. We go into social media and start browsing mindlessly or whatever to avoid hard things that we have to do sometimes, or hard thoughts or hard conversations or whatever it is, which is why using social media as a tool for good is so incredibly impactful and such a big opportunity, because it's like, this is where people are going to get away from what they need to do. And then we can present that message of like, but actually this is what we need to do right there on social media. So it just never ceases to amaze me, the positive impact that social media can have when people don't even expect it, you know?
Exactly. And I mean, who would have thought this would be, 50 years ago? Imagine trying to think this is where the world's going to be or what's going to be happening. But it is so true what you're saying. It's like, it's a good way to think about it. And I got to remind myself that it's like, people are going to be on these things regardless, and often for negative reasons. So it is where most people are. Why not use that to try and pump out, information that can help? It makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely. It really does.
Super interesting.
Oh no.
So,
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, this is, sort of, we end every conversation, every interview, we've got sort of 5 closing questions that we ask. So I'll get to that in a second. But, this is, I've loved all of everything we've talked about here. And there's probably, I think we could probably talk for hours. There's probably sort of so many different tangents we could go on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's just so interesting, this topic. But what I wanted to ask is for your personal, management of yourself and your own well-being in general, are there certain things that you do each day? I know for me, exercise is number one. I try and exercise every day. Normally morning, that gets because for me, I have anxiety. I wake up and my mind's just racing. At nighttime, I'm okay, but morning it's going crazy. So if I go and exercise, it clears me. Meditation, things like that. But I'm always interested just to learn from our guests, what are the things that sort of help you, manage yourself in general? Yeah.
So as I said before too, exercise is a big one for me. I'm fortunate because I played sports growing up. And so kind of got ingrained in me easy from early on. My family's pretty athletic in general. So that was always something that was a part of me. And I'm very fortunate about that, because if I didn't have that release, if I didn't have that, physical exertion, I feel like it would probably make a big negative impact on my mind if I kind of bottled all that up and didn't have that release. I've gone through periods where I've, for whatever reason, you get lazy, time gets in the way, and you don't get that exercise in, and it's gone on longer than I should have allowed it, maybe over a month at times. But generally speaking, I'm pretty rigorous about that. But when I do notice that I'm not exercising and I go extended periods without it, I notice a huge impact on my mental health, just mood swings and feeling like much more negative and kind of nihilistic about the world in general. But so to answer your question, exercise is a big one. But I think for me, one of the most important things is having a solid morning routine. And I know that kind of sounds pretty cliche nowadays with, like, you go on YouTube and it's like my productive morning routine, my spiritual morning routine, you hear The Rock yelling at you saying, I got up at 4 a.m. and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, right. But yeah, exactly. I agree though. The morning routine, sorry to cut you off. Yeah. No, I'm thrilled. It was worth it. I think not a productive, I'm going back to the YouTube taglines. Just a period in the morning for me to kind of prepare for the day, and ask myself questions that are exciting me, that are getting me excited for the day and joyful about the day and grateful for life, as opposed to hopping up, checking social media right away, or like checking my emails right away. I think just this period in the morning where I have a chance to kind of I have a chance to dictate my emotions rather than everything coming at me. And I think you can do that in different ways. I used to meditate quite a bit. I've transitioned the morning routine into something a bit more personalized to me, that just kind of, gets me excited and gets me energized and feeling good and confident and whatnot. And I think having that time has been such a game changer for me. Even on days that I don't do it now, it's like my girlfriend will say something and I'll just like immediately go negative with what she said and the connotations. And I think back to the morning, I'm like, oh, I didn't do my morning routine today. Like that's, and it kind of all circles back. Right. And so I think more and more I'm seeing that a good morning routine and proper sleep, good morning routine and exercise, it has been vital for me feeling good and feeling like I'm moving in the right direction in terms of mental and physical health.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think, and in general, having routines, I think, we live in a world where things are so uncertain. I think especially if you're sort of, doing creative sort of pursuits, doing your own thing, there can be so much uncertainty and such lack of traditional sort of structure around that. So I found, for myself, having a routine, it means that no matter what's happening, if you follow the routine, at least that gives you some control, and it's something that you can do regardless of, the ups and downs that are happening. You can do this thing that, makes you feel good and that's just for you every day, and it helps with everything else. So yeah, super, really like what you said there. Also, I keep meaning to ask, we're going to put this in all the show notes, and when we promote it, we'll have all of this anyway, but where can our guests go to find you on TikTok and social media?
It's just my name, JESSEKATCHES, Jesse Katches. I'm
nice and
mostly
easy
on TikTok and Instagram these days, but I'm going to start putting love into the YouTube again, away from it, and I'm going to start diving into that again soon.
Nice. Oh, we'll put links to all of them. So we'll put all your social links in the show notes. So anyone listening, definitely go and check him out. There's amazing content on there.
Thank you.
You won't be disappointed. Good way. Most of our listeners are wanting to learn in this area, so it's another area for them all to go to as well. So that'll be there. So yeah, we finish, like I was saying before, we finish every episode with just 5 closing questions. These can sort of be, whatever comes to mind. They don't have to be sort of anything crazy, the answers, but whatever comes up. But the first one is, what did you like most about your childhood? Or what was your best childhood memory that comes to mind?
Family vacations to Tahoe. I'm very close with my family. Oh. Yeah, I'm very close with them, and
I want to go there.
It's an amazing place. I grew up in Northern California, and so journey to get there, and we would go every summer and just have the best time. So that was definitely the highlight of my childhood.
Thank you so much for supporting Move Your Mind. We're expanding the offerings of the organization, and we're tailoring everything we do to suit you guys and to try and answer to all of your needs and the questions that you send in. The book is available globally. You can find all of the links at nickbracks.com/book. And we've just released the Move Your Mind community. We've currently got a men's community group, a women's community group, a general group. We're going to be loading up other groups, and you can find all of the links at moveyourmind.me. This group's been created based on the needs of what we've heard and learnt throughout running Move Your Mind. And we have live events. We've got courses. We've got huge amounts of value, the ability to share information, share ideas, work in groups together to grow and share your learnings, to learn about different topics. You get email reminders. There's a whole lot of features in there. We're constantly updating it, and we're so excited to share it with you. You can find all of the information about it at moveyourmind.me.
So I was meaning to ask you earlier in the interview, so you're from California is where you grew up?
Yeah, Northern California.
Northern California.
Yeah, kind of near, in between Sacramento and Tahoe. Very small town. A town of like 1,000 people was the population of my town I grew up in.
Oh wow! And are your family still there?
Yeah, Most of them, yes, they're in and around the area. My parents were up in the same house I grew up in. It actually, unfortunately, it was burned down in the wildfires last year in California. But they
Sorry to
are.
hear.
Thank you. Yeah, but I mean, it's crazy because one of the things, like we were talking about earlier, is of course not regretting the difficult times that we go through and how that kind of builds us. And one thing that I saw when my parents' house burned down was like this amazing level of community that came around to support, to donate, to lend help in any way possible. And of course, you know, it's not my home anymore. There's a lot of memories. There's a lot there of mine as well that I stored there, but it wasn't my home at that time. It was my parents. They had been there a long time. So it's much easier for me to say this than for them. But like the amount of community and support and love that I saw was like, I wouldn't trade that. Of course, I would want the house back, and I never wanted it to burn down, of course. But to see that level of community and love that came around, it really opened my eyes to like, to kind of in relation to what I'm doing now, is just like the importance of having people, having a community, having like thinkers around you, whether it's like big scale on like a group and in terms of like a Facebook community or a community around your book or my content or whatever, and like a small circle of people that you can just lean on. But the beautiful thing about all the people I maybe met once or never even met in person were coming to donate and just like see if we were okay and see if we could if they needed anything. And it's just amazing to see like kind of love and support and community that comes forward when people are really in need. And it's something I wouldn't trade to have seen, but of course, yeah, difficult situation.
Yeah, totally. And it's, you know, community is so important, and I think we can get taken away from it at times, or people can get isolated from it, but we need it. You know, that's how we're built, and we're meant to be in communities. So it really is such an important thing. So
it's a 10-year anniversary of Under Bracks, and we've relaunched with the classic white pair. We've also got new styles coming out super soon. We're donating $1 from every pair to mental health, currently to 1 in 5. You can find all of this at www.underbracks.com.
I know I find it hard being in New York and, you know, having family in Australia. Is it difficult for you having the family? I mean, I know it's not Australia, but it still is like, what, 6-hour flight away. It's not close.
Yeah, definitely. It is hard. Like I said, I'm very close to my family, and I mean, even the question you just asked a moment ago was like my favorite childhood memory. It's family vacations. It's being around my family, and I love them so much. I love to spend as much time as possible with them, and being in New York, that's definitely the hardest thing for me, is being away from them. And now that flight prices have gone through the roof, I'm like,
yeah,
I can't go back as often as I'd like, and that definitely takes a toll on me for sure. I need to get out there now. I thank you for the reminder. I'm going to look up plane tickets right when we get off here.
There you go. No, but it is a difficult thing. It's sort of, and that's what I've found, you know, with Australia, it gets so expensive now to fly back. So it's sort of,
yeah,
I'm spending a big chunk of time here now with them, but that's the hardest part. But, you know, it's a good problem to have if you've got a close family. Like, that's what I remind myself, like, so fortunate to have that, you know?
Yeah, totally. That's the benefit of it. I mean, that's the positive thing to focus on in the situation for sure.
Totally. So next question. So 2 of 5 here, and also for everyone listening, you're going to see this all cut nicely together. But this final section, we're having multiple computer issues. So this is the final 5 minutes being recorded over probably about 10 clips. So second,
probably taking
second
longer than the rest of the interview as a whole.
Exactly. Just to do 5 questions, but anyway, we're committed. We're committed to doing it.
Yes.
So, what do you think is currently the biggest burden on mental health in society?
Ooh, that's a heavy question. I think from my perspective, and maybe it's because I see it from the position I'm in now, but I think the fear of talking about it, fear of opening up, and I think there's such like a weight on society, and I think more and more that's kind of the pitfalls of social media. This weight that like you should be as far as along as everybody else, or you should be at this point in life, and it's very easy. The quickest way to see that is on social media. And so I think there's this expectation that we all feel like we need to live up to. And when we don't meet that, we're kind of afraid to talk about it. And then that kind of perpetuates and excels mental health issues, I feel like. And so it's kind of this vicious cycle of like not wanting to open up about your mental health, but also kind of this cycle of like of seeing that you're behind, that causing kind of mental health issues, not wanting to open up about it, and then feeling like you're more behind. And it's just kind of this downward spiral. I think maybe it's because I'm closest to that. And I talk to a lot of people about how, you know, they reach out to me and say it's a positive thing that they see my videos and they're able to connect with them, and it helps them to open up a bit more. And so that those conversations are always so humbling to me that I'm able to do that for somebody, but also eye-opening that seeing that other people kind of are having this difficulty opening up about it. And so I'm close to that situation. So maybe that's why I see it this way.
Yeah, well, no, I know, I completely agree, and I probably see a similar thing, but I think that's super relevant what you said, so I couldn't agree more. What's your personal definition of happiness?
I think that's a good question. Wow, these final five are tough, man. You saved the toughest part for last. I think for me, happiness is to always be growing. And that's personally for my definition of happiness, because I think everything really fits into that.
Yep.
And I think growing in relationships around you, growing spiritually, growing, you know, in your mental health and your physical health. I think when we're stagnant and we stop growing, that's when we have too much time with ourselves, too much time on our thoughts, too much. We're just stagnant, and stagnant things don't survive. They like in life, like if you're not moving, if you're not growing, it's typically meaning that you're dying. To put it in a dark way. But yeah, so I think for me, happiness means always growing, and that doesn't have to look like big growth. Like I meditated today. That's growth. Like I got out of bed and I felt better than I did yesterday. I got more sleep. Like that's growth. Like there's little things that are growth. I posted a video on TikTok today, and for a lot of people that's scary. Like if that's all it takes and you're putting yourself out there, that's growth. And like it doesn't take a lot to grow, and small steps are the biggest components of growth, small consistent steps. And I think constant consistent growth for me is happiness.
I think I love that, because, and I think it's so important, because I know, it's sort of like thinking about it, whenever you put too much pressure on things and think you have to, do all these different things, you can get overwhelmed. But if it's like, what can I do on a micro level every day, that actually leads to the bigger growing. And then also changing the narrative of growing, not because of we're trying to reach whatever end objective it is, just because we're trying to continually improve. Because whenever you're sort of getting caught up in, no, I need to get to this and then get to that, then that's when the anxiety comes. But if it's like, I'm just doing it for my own reason and growing for that way, that's where we feel aligned, and, you get better results anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of going back to what we were saying. It's like the pitfalls of again, one of the pitfalls of social media is seeing the comparisons and things like that. And that, I think what you're talking about too is like, that's when you start to get anxiety, is when you're in those situations trying to grow. And then you're like, oh, but I want to be here. I'm here. This person's here. Like, I need to hit this goal and this goal and this goal. And if you're not, and you're taking just small steps, it doesn't feel like growth at all. So you're 100% right. And I think that's really important to keep in mind, is like, it's consistent growth, but it's not like chasing after things, you know. There's a big difference, but it's a fine line, I feel like.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, when you are chasing things and being so hard on yourself that you're not getting there or comparing, ironically, that actually leads to slowing down your growth, because you're going to be so hard on yourself. Well, it takes the joy out of it. Even if you can suffer through it and achieve in that way, it's not fun anymore. So you want to be able to keep coming back to, you know, what do I actually enjoy doing? How can I enjoy doing it for, you know, whether I'm doing better than the person next to me or not, you know, who cares?
Right.
Like, as long as you're getting something out of it.
Yeah, totally.
So final two here. What are you most afraid of?
Ooh.
I'm throwing some hard ones at you here. Finish up.
Man. Aside from public speaking, let's see.
Well, you've done well on the podcast. I don't think you have a problem in public speaking.
No, I know. At one point in my life, that would have 100% been my answer.
We share that one. Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, it'd be interesting to go back in time and have both of us up on a stage and see who struggles the most.
Oh man, wow, that would be a miserable time for the audience, because it would be so.
It
awkward.
Wouldn't be. It really would be.
I would say nowadays, I'm most afraid of not living up to my potential, and that's not to say like I'm like in an unhealthy way pushing myself, and like we were just saying, like setting these unrealistic goals and expectations and chasing things, but more so just like I feel like I have a really good opportunity with my experience doing now, and the vision I have for things to continue to leave a positive impact on the world and make the world a better place. And I'm really excited about that opportunity. And I feel like what we were saying too, it's exciting when all these crossroads intersect. And I feel like I'm really reaching that point in my life where a lot of my past experiences are intersecting with what I'm working on now. And it could potentially lead to great things in the future. And so I think my biggest fear now is kind of not throwing it all away, but living up to that, not living up to what I see like could be a major positive impact on the world, but then, but not reaching that position. And it sounds very like unhealthy and unrealistic in a way, but, I think I'm viewing it with a healthy mindset, and maybe I don't know how it sounds from the outside, but,
no,
I would say that's my biggest fear.
I think it makes perfect sense. And for me, I share that. Probably that's my biggest fear as well. It's sort of it's not necessarily about what the achievement is, but it's more so, you know, I don't care if I fail at things, but it's having the knowledge that I know I've maxed out my potential, and, you know, what I should be doing, or what I feel like I'm capable of doing in the areas I want to, you know, make an impact in. Because that would be a horrible feeling to look back on your life and feel like I could have done more. You know, I didn't max out what I wanted to do. Yeah.
So, and I think you probably put it a better way. So well done on that, because you probably
I like
said
the way
what
you did
I wanted to say, but also, but yeah. And I think that's kind of hand in hand with me with quitting. I think quitting is in line with that, like fear of not living up to my potential, and then fear of quitting when I don't receive the outcome or don't achieve the outcome that I want. And like, I know myself now, there was a time, I think that's a fear because there's a time in my past where I definitely would have hit a wall and then quit, you know, whatever wall that would have been. And I'm at a different point in my life now where I feel like, where if I hit a wall, I'll say, okay, there's another way, you know, like, let me climb this wall, let me find a door, let me break through the wall, whatever it is. And I've never been there before in my life, but now I feel like I am. And so I think that like fear of like that feeling of giving up and quitting is in my past, and I know that feeling. So that's like, it's not really a fear, I guess. It's kind of like a looming like cloud that's like, I'm pushing it away further and further as I progress, you know?
It's great. No, and I totally get that. And I think it was really fearful for me, but also became almost simplified things sort of when I found the path I wanted to go on, where it's, mental health and acting and trying to do what I'm doing. There's so many moments where you're struggling and you think, how can I sustain doing this? What else would I do if I didn't do it? But then I thought about it properly and I was like, you know what? I don't have a choice, because I know that if I do anything else, I'm going to be so miserable, even if I had success in that other thing. So I'm going to have to just push forward regardless, for better or worse. This is what I'm going to do. But it's sort of empowering as well, because then it simplifies things that, I'm staying on this path. You don't have to worry about other solutions.
Yeah. Yeah. No backup plan. It's
no backup plan.
It's terrifying and exciting and necessary in some ways, all at the same time.
Exactly. So final one here. What are you most proud of?
Ooh, what am I most proud of? I think I'm most proud of, at this point in my life, again, it might just be because it's the current time and situation, but I think I'm most proud of being open to putting myself out in skits, acting, putting myself out there, putting the message out there that I know some people I'm going to get some negative comments. I'm going to get a lot of positive and a lot of supportive ones, but there's definitely going to be negative comments. I know people are going to view me in a certain way. And I think getting over that fear of putting yourself out there when you have like a message to share and you could do some good, it's so scary. And it's something that like I always kind of wanted to do, but back in the day, if I tried to do this maybe 3-4 years ago, I don't think I would have been able to handle it mentally. I don't think I would have been equipped to do it, just because my fear of being judged and my fear of the negativity, when I do encounter it, was so severe. So now that I'm at this point and I'm making videos and a lot of people seem to be connecting, and I'm grateful for that. But I think that I'm really proud of putting myself out there, and I'm really proud of this position I've kind of worked my way into, for sure.
Oh, well, I love that. And I think it's a great note to end on. And it's such an important thing that you're doing. And for your first podcast interview, I feel, again, very lucky to have you do it. And I think you've been amazing. I think we could probably, like I was saying earlier, talk for another 2 to 3 hours about all of this stuff.
Totally.
But yeah, appreciate you sharing everything. Appreciate what you're doing. For everyone listening, definitely make sure you go and follow Jesse on all of his social platforms. And yeah, mate, thank you again. And I'm looking forward to catching up in person when I'm back in New York.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me on. This was honestly a blast. I had a great time.
Appreciate it, mate.
Thanks to Jesse Katches for joining me today for Move Your Mind. And just another reminder that the Move Your Mind book is available globally. You can find all of the links at nickbracks.com/book. And you can join the Move Your Mind community by going to moveyourmind.me. And finally, we've relaunched Under Bracks as part of the 10-year anniversary. We're donating $1 from every pair to mental health, and you can find the link at underbracks.com.